Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about the 80s because everybody wants to hear what happened to the 80s and the games that we played against each other. You called me up the other day and you just came out the blue. And I'm like, who is this? It said, the B ain't going to score 40 on me. I was like, oh, this is Bernard King. and then you said, no, this is Bernard. I said, I know this is Bernard King. But you know what? I'm gonna put the story down. This is what happened. Bernard King had been going absolutely crazy against Detroit.
The game isn't over yet, as the Knicks saw at the end of regulation. Harris King, yes, 44 points for Bernard King. Lewis went up with the left hand. King with a sensational rebound.
He was averaging damn near 50 points a game in the series before he played the Celtics. So Bernard they had won, and we were playing the next series. And so reporter comes up to me and he goes, and I'm a competitor. He goes, what are you going to do about Bernard King scoring 40 on you? And I'm like, bitch ain't scoring 40 on me. I think. and then it was on and popping then. And my coach came to me before the game. He's like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that. I can't believe you said that about Bernard King. I was like, man, if you're afraid, get a dog. Now, to our fan base, this is what happened. We go out in the first game, and Bernard King shakes hands with all the players on my team. And then he gets to me, and I extend my hand out, and he looked like I got shit on my hands. I'm like, dude. It's like, and then he just looked at me and then just turned his head. And I was like, well, I guess it's going to be on. And so now you can start telling me some of this story.
Well, coming out of that Detroit series, I'm playing with two dislocated fingers. Coming in that series, throughout this series, I averaged 42 points a game during that series. But when we land in Boston, I always had a habit of picking up the local paper, to see what's going on in the community in the city. And on the back page of the newspaper, in bold letters, the BITCH is not going to get 40 on us. I said, whoa, now this is a greeting. And you made that comment, and so I wasn't going to shake your hand, period.
Wow.
Period. I was ready to play. I didn't say a word, and I was going to let our team and my actions speak loudly and clearly.
And it really did. I mean, the way you play, but I tell people all the time, the first two games in Boston, we held you down. I think you had 23 and then maybe 26.
First 25, second game, you held me down and scored 13 points. Now, let me share.
And then we go to New York.
Hold on. I want to share this with everyone. All right. Now, in the Detroit series, I was being defended by 5 different guys. And so I made my adjustments to each guy and had a way I would take my shots. Now, with you guys, this is what you did. I did. And this was really serious. I learned this is now playoff basketball. The Detroit series was something different. I go to take a shot, and I get fouled not by just you, not just by McHale, but also Parrish, all on one play. And the ref, the official, Max, he can only call one foul. I said, wow. So this is the way the game is going to be played. I scored 13 points. I'm upset. We lose. Obviously, now we're down 0-2. Not many teams come back from 0-2. But let me tell you something that you don't know, Max. No one knows publicly. You defended me in that second game with a defense is the only defense that I never want to see. I'm prepared for any defense, but it's the only defense that I never wanted to see. You would circle me in the low post and not allow me to make contact. I need contact to shield myself and to get to the space I wanted to get the pass I'd like. And you circled me, and that befuddled my guard, and I couldn't get the ball. So you know what I did, Max?
What's that, brother?
You know the name Pete, the legendary Pete Noll?
Yep.
I called Pete Noll. Yes, I didn't go to Hubie Brown. Yes, I didn't want him to think that I lost confidence, and I didn't want him to think that I didn't have confidence in him. So I called Pete Noll, and I said, Pete, I'm seeing the only defense I can't figure out. Help me. He said,
So you cheated.
It's not cheating. I was in Pete Noll's camp for several years.
Okay.
He was very helpful to me as a player. And so he said, take your guard in practice and tell your guard when Maxwell circles you, allow him to circle. When he comes across the top and he goes to the bottom, that's when you make the pass. And that's what we practice on, when we return back to New Jersey. And then the third game, I came out opening up with jump shots to give me that spacing to get to the basket.
Man, I that was one of the worst days that I can remember. But I wasn't really, we held, when you start going crazy, I'm thinking like, damn, these dudes don't know no more plays. Y'all ain't remember one play. It was whatever this is, power or something. I told Cuban Ground about this. Like, I'm like, damn, man, do y'all run anybody else want to be involved in this game? But they kept going to you and you kept scoring. And all I remember, I was getting madder and madder and madder. And then I thought the story was, after the game, Bernard King scores. What did you score? Because you told me last time, 40 what?
44.
Okay, 44. So, by the way, he scored 44. And then the reporter comes down and he brings me a stat sheet. And you said this wasn't true because I talked to you about it. But the reporter came down, he brings me a stat sheet and he goes, Bernard King told me to give this to you.
Make this your best season yet with nutritious 2-minute meals from Factor. Eating well has never been this easy. Just heat up and enjoy, giving you more time to do what you really want. Get outside instead of prepping and cooking indoors. Factor meals arrive fresh and ready to eat, perfect for any active lifestyle. With 45 weekly menu options, you can pick gourmet meals that fit your goals. Choose from Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, and so much more. Factor powers your day with satisfying breakfast, on-the-go lunches, premium dinners, and guilt-free snacks and desserts. It's easy to savor more this spring. Factor meals pack in flavor with none of the fuss. So get started at factormeals.com/boomertakes50off and use code boomertakes50off to get 50% off free shipping on your first box. That's code boomertakes50off at factormeals.com/boomertakes50off for 50% off plus free shipping.
You have 44 points. I was livid. I was down there. I was human down there. And I was like, but you said that didn't happen, right? Or
no, I was totally unaware that ever occurred.
Well, a reporter came down, New York paper came down and said, Bernard King told me maybe they would just goad me up even more. Bernard King told me to come down and give you the stat sheet. And I was fuming. I'm down there with my partners. We're talking about it. So we're gonna get this asshole tomorrow. We're gonna get his ass tomorrow. We're gonna get him the next game we play. The next game, you score more, right? Would you go 46? I was like, we could not, and we were trying everything trying to stop you. And it just got worse and worse.
NBA History Channel is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.